Hi everybody, salut tout le monde. This video is about showing you how I made the concrete cracks. It's going to be fairly similar to the glass cracks, but with major difference mostly in the beginning. Let's see what I made. You can have a look with the rounded cube here. It should represent concrete, but I spent most of the time on the cracks and very little time on the concrete. Let's have a look at some reference. Cracks in concrete are not necessarily very straight, very sharp. They can be soft and curvy, like here. We see we have big shapes and smaller ones intertwined with the bigger shapes. The lines are somehow jagged, but quite fluidly, nothing too aggressive, on this one at least. But I tried to do something like this, with the smaller cells here, and bigger jagged lines coming from them and spreading into the surface, as we can see here. We have some small cores here, they spread their cracks throughout the concrete. Okay, let's have a look at the graph. So I used the technique distance plus edge detect, which can give you a good basis. You see the little cores are here, and I have the main lines among them. But I also combined them with scratches. Okay, let's start at the beginning. Just started with a crystal 1 with a scale of 39. I used this order. So I used a levels node as the source input, and the mask input I used the crystal. If you want to see my settings exactly, just played with the level in high and the level in mid, and gave the distance a maximum distance of 256. So that's what I got. And then I can use the edge detect to try to find for me the lines, the edges of those shapes, of those white shapes. It's a delicate technique. If you change anything, you can get a very different result. For example, I will change the levels here. You see, by doing that, I got inner cracks in the cores. Not sure if it's a good idea. Let's try it again. Just put this white arrow where it was, and I get more complex result. Yeah, it can be a good thing. It just adds more detail. So yeah, don't hesitate to play with the levels node. Okay, nice. Then usually when I do something like this, I use within the edge detect, I use a high tolerance. So I use a tolerance of 1, no edge roundness, minimum edge width of 1. If I try to use some edge roundness, I just destroy my result. No edge roundness and no edge width. That's usually the settings that I use that allow me to get a nice result. When you have something like this, of course, it's not usable as is. So you get to modify it to get something more organic. I just duplicated it with a safe transform, just played with the offset and the rotation, and blended it with itself with a max Layton node. So I just have smaller cores with the bigger one. Okay, then I just combined these results with scratches. As you can see, long lines, not straight, with some curves, but soft curves. I probably used, yes, I used the Max Lighten blending mode, opacity 1. So I have a mesh, like a network of cracks, but it's just the base. Now, as with the glass cracks, I'm gonna start using a directional warp, and this time I used the one made by Daniel Tiger with a Clouds 2 as the intensity input. I don't think I changed anything with the Clouds 2. Oh yes, I think I changed the disorder, but it's not very important. And the scale, I set it to 1. This step is very crucial because, as you can see, now I get more organic forms. The cracks are starting to be better defined. Just play with the warp direction. It's very important. Generally, the intensity of 10 is good enough for most of the purposes, most of what you want to do. It's difficult to know what type of warp direction you want to choose. I think I'm gonna choose this one. Yeah, around 45 degrees. Don't worry, I think I will increase the levels to get the cracks to be more visible. I think they're too light for now. So then I want to use a Slab Blur grayscale just to break the edges. It's kind of the same technique as with the glass. So I start with a blur, 0.2 intensity, the levels, just to crank up the whites a little. Then I use the Slab Blur grayscale with the min mode, 0.3 intensity, and as a slope, I just use the Clouds 2. Alright, we are starting to get there. But I won't use the Slab Blur like this. I'm gonna blend it with the directional output, directional warp output. I am using the copy node. So this is the directional warp output. This is a Slab Blur, so I'm just trying to find the middle ground, a good blend between the two of them. In this case, the copy mode is usually the best option for you. Then, as with the same thing as with the glass, is some erosion, iteration 1. Let's try with 2. With 2 we don't see much. But if I play with the levels, well, the problem with the erosion is that you're starting to get squares, and I don't really like this. It could work. It could be interesting. But you can see the squares here due to the erosion. The iteration of 2 is too strong, so I just keep it at 1 to have something more fluid. But I just increase the medium gray value here. This slider here, this parameter, is very important. As you can see, if I increase it, I lose a good chunk of my cracks. I just have to find the value that I like. If you want to see the settings that I used for the level in high and level in mid. Then I also once again used the Slab Blur grayscale just to give it a more grainy feeling, more grainy look. So this time I just used the high blend node, and I combined a moisture noise, scale of 1, small disorder. You can see the settings here, with a fractal sum 2. There's no settings. Just try to combine them together. Height offset 0.7, contrast 0.8. And that is the slope source for the Slab Blur grayscale. Just to give it some more details. And to finish, I just blend them. Don't use the Slab Blur grayscale like this all by itself. I blend it with the previous result using a multiply. But if I change the opacity, I get more cracks. The multiply blending mode helps me get more depth variation, especially with the big lines and a good accentration of the cores. So I think I get more subtleness with the multiply blend. If I don't put any opacity, that's the cracks, that's the Slab Blur here. And if I set the opacity to 1, I just mask, I just got thinner cracks, subtle cracks. Okay. Then I use the sharpen node, but beware, because the sharpen node, when you pass 0.5, it becomes grainy. So I'm just gonna try with 0.5, 0.4, hoping that I will get a less grainy result. I just would like to get a bit more cracks in this one, so I decrease this slider here. Then we can start talking about the background, the texture in itself. Once again, I use the height blend. Just send the previous height blend that we covered just before as the height top and as the height bottom. I think it's just our background with a histogram range. All right, small contrast. Gonna play with the height offset. Don't want it to be too grainy. 0.2, 0.3 for the height offset should be enough. But this part is not important. You can put anything. We're just trying to study cracks. So then I just subtract the cracks. As you can see, I can keep a moderate opacity for the subtract. Okay, what's this? Okay, here with this blend node, I just put some stripes. I started with gradient linear of 3 with a tiling of 256. Just safe transform them. No tiling, no offset, just a 45 degrees rotation. And a Slab Blur with our previous height. Just a small intensity. And then I choose soft light. Maybe I could have tried it with a copy with a very small intensity. I think it's very close to soft light. Yeah, soft light is softer. I think an opacity of 0.02 should be more than enough. Then I wanted to chip away some parts. As you can see here, the darker spots. When I want to do that, I use a min darken blend. So this is what I did here. And it's the last step within our concrete cracks. So to get those spots here, I just use the safe transform from the previous blend with a tiling of 3 and a small and a quick levels node. You can see the settings here. And then the min darken to eat the surface away. No need to push it. Okay, that's fine. Very simple for the outputs. For the height, just blurred it a little. 0.45, 0.4 should be enough. I always blur the height because if I use tessellation, which I don't think it's the case here. If I use tessellation, I don't want anything sharp with noise, so I blur the height every time. Right now, I think there's too much complexity within the cracks, so I'll try to simplify it a bit, probably by pushing the whites, simplifying the cores. For the ambient occlusion, nothing special, just 0.01 for the height depth. Normal intensity 3. Use the normal to height HQ. Just inverted it because black is glossy, white is rough, so I wanted the cracks to be rough. And the histogram range allows me to have a nice rich roughness. Let me show you if I decrease the position. High range equals high details intensity, and low range is kind of washed out, so you lose lots of the details in your roughness map. So I always like to have a high range, and it's concrete, so you can push the whites to get a rougher result for your concrete. And for the color, I needed something clear, light, so I just used the levels, decreased the level out high, and increased the mid. So that's for the color. So we get a good cracks network. It's rich. It's different. We don't have any repetitiveness. We have different kinds of levels, different kinds of details. So it's a nice technique to have. I encourage you to try maybe with the same base to try different noises. For example, not use a crystal one, but why not use a crystal 2 and see what it does. Not sure it does anything good, but let's try it. Yeah, it's really different. Let's try with a plasma. With a plasma, we have something interesting, but yeah, it's quite, it's more discrete. Maybe I can increase the edge width. Not a good idea. What if I play with the levels here? the plasma gets you those like cells cores. It's a bit strange. Yeah, I think I like the crystal better. I'm just gonna plug the crystal back. You don't want too much intensity in the directional warp. If you remember here, I used the sail transform to just to get just to duplicate it, get more details. But if I just do this, if I bypass the safe transform, okay, yeah, it can work too. It's nice, but the duplication is was good. I'll keep using it just to have more details, more stuff. So this was a way of making cracks, and I don't really like, you know, the roundness of the concrete. I would prefer something more flat or curved. I don't have very deep cracks. Well, some of them, but I think that lacks. I have some here, like a hole here, big thick cracks here and here, and I have them, but maybe it's not enough. I don't know. At least we have something very organic and something that does not ring, doesn't look like something too procedural. I don't identify it straight as something that comes out of Substance Designer. But I keep working on the concrete texture to have something more interesting, more mineral, more stony. Thanks for watching, and see you next Monday for something different. We're gonna study a stylized tree bark that I made for my portfolio a few months back. Let's have a look at it as a little teasing. Well, we'll study this graph, this material, how I made it, and you'll see that in fact it's pretty easy to do it. It's very, very easy. Thanks again, and see you soon for a new tutorial. Bye bye.